The Thai government is finally getting serious about dealing with non-governmental organizations, or NGOs. This article from the Bangkok Post, government to regulate all NGOs. They're talking about the cabinet has approved in principle 2 bills that will allow the state to monitor the financing of non-government organizations and regulate their activities. Planned legislation would allow NGOs to seek financial support from the government, but they must register with the Interior Ministry. This is not intended to limit their rights, but is aimed at ensuring that money they received will be properly used and their activities will be conducted in accordance with the objectives of nonprofit organizations for true benefits. What she's describing there is called transparency, and that is something that these fake NGOs operating here in Thailand, funded by the US government, lack absolutely. I have covered for years how the US government, through the National Endowment for Democracy, has been funding these fronts here in Thailand and using them to subvert Thailand politically, to interfere in Thailand's internal political affairs, to violate Thailand's political independence. If you go to the National Endowment for Democracy's website and you look at the programs funded in Thailand by the US government, you are going to see money in dollar amounts that these organizations are receiving from the US government every single year. The Union for Civil Liberty includes organizations like Thai Lawyers for Human Rights, who work directly with the leadership of the anti-government protests, currently trying to overthrow the government of Thailand. One of their lawyers, Anand Napa, literally leads the anti-government protests. This is a US government-funded front involved in attempting to overthrow the government of Thailand. Think about that. If you continue scrolling down, you're going to see organizations like Internet Law Reform Dialogue, better known as ILAW. Again, this is a US government-funded front who literally tried to rewrite Thailand's constitution. A front funded by a foreign government was trying to rewrite Thailand's constitution. If we go down further, we're going to see the Foundation for Community Educational Media. That's Prachatai, because if you go down to the bottom of their website, you will see it's actually the Foundation for Community Educational Media. They use these names so that it's harder to figure out who's actually funding them, because their funding will be listed on the NED's website as the Foundation for Community Educational Media, but nobody calls them that. They call them Prachatai. If you want to know who funds Prachatai, you go to About Prachatai English and you scroll down. You don't see any information about who funds Prachatai. Actually, all you find is them begging you for money. But actually, if you go to read more here, and you close the pop-up begging you for more money, and you scroll down, you will see that they did make one financial disclosure ever, and it was in 2011, 10 years ago. And you will see that they admit that they get and use around 8 million Thai baht for 1 year. That's over 20,000 baht a day that Prachatai is using. And they're getting that from the US government, from other foreign governments, and from foreign corporate funded foundations. They are still begging ordinary people whom they're not fully transparent with about who actually funds them. They're still begging these people for money. And look at these organizations that they're taking the money from. There's the National Endowment for Democracy right there. They receive money from them every single year. And convicted financial criminal George Soros's Open Society Foundation. They also get money from Germany's Green Party through the Henrik Boll Foundation. And what does Prachatai actually do? Do they provide balanced, independent media? No. They support the opposition. They are supporting, promoting, and aiding and abetting the mobs out in the street when they carry out violence. You don't read about it on Prachatai. They deliberately cover that up. This is not journalism. This is propaganda, and it is being funded by a foreign government. Now, when the US-backed billionaire-led opposition comes out to oppose this bill, and they will, parties like Thanaton's Move Forward or Thaksin's Prachatai, just remember that these same parties worked hand in hand with these US-funded fronts, like ILAW, when it was putting together its petition to have Thailand's constitution rewritten, a US government-funded front trying to rewrite Thailand's constitution. It was members of Move Forward, Future Forward, and Prachatai who signed their names to that petition. Do they get to have a say in whether or not a bill is introduced to regulate this sort of foreign-funded political interference when they themselves are engaged in it? It's just something to be aware of. When this starts to really gain momentum, they are going to oppose it for sure. And that's the reason why. Not because it's violating anyone's rights, but because it is stopping them from violating Thailand's political independence. It's time that the law is changed and that these organizations are held accountable for what they're doing and the lack of transparency they are doing it with. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. Think about subscribing to my channel. It helps the channel grow and it's totally free to do. Check the video description for the links to these articles, as well as to ways you can help support my work, like through Patreon. And to everyone everywhere who is helping me in every way, thank you so much for that support. And as always, thank you for watching.